listen to GB Mag Chats. GB Mag Chats, where international students get answers.
Welcome to GB Mag Chats, where we answer the real questions international students have about living and studying in the UK. I'm Sophie, your host, and today we have Marta and Cassidy joining us to discuss the Great British Christmas. Marta, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yes. Hello everyone, my name's Marta and I was an international student up until this summer. I am originally from Spain and I have celebrated Christmas in Spain, but it's wildly different to how they do it here. And I'm here to talk about like all the differences and culture shocks and everything.
Thanks so much. And Cassidy, over to you.
Hello, I'm Cassidy. I did writing and publishing at the University of Derby and graduated about a year and a half ago now in 2020. I guess I bring some of the British perspective to this as someone who celebrated Christmas in Britain my entire life, so I'm very excited to talk about it.
Can't wait. We're all feeling very festive here, as you can see. So what we're going to talk about today is a whole range of things, but basically all of the things that make a British Christmas. The differences, obviously we've got Marta here to discuss. Marta does celebrate Christmas, but can't wait to hear all of the things that we probably don't even realise make for a very British Christmas that Cassidy and I probably just take for granted. So the first thing I want to talk about is the beginning of Christmas. And when I say Christmas, I mean the run-up, the whole Christmas period, which I don't know, Marta, if you found this, but seems to start pretty early here in the UK. Marta, I'd love to hear about your first impressions of your first British Christmas.
So basically, in the UK, for some reason, when Halloween ends, it's Christmas. Like literally, not even a day out. Like first of Christmas. That's first time I was here. It was like, why is there so many Christmas decorations already? Because like in Spain, we do start quite early. We do start in November, as in like putting up decorations and stuff. Not in houses, but in like shops and like the outsides and parks and everything. They do put Christmas lights up, but it's more towards like the middle of November, maybe endish of November. People are not so obsessed with like Christmas shopping that they start Christmas shopping like half a year early, which is something that I have heard people do, and I was just like, what? And like the biggest thing was like my first Christmas, it was just so overwhelming to like see all the Christmas stuff, and I felt that I was like doing something wrong because I was not interested in it. And especially this year, because of COVID and like everything not happening last Christmas, at least in Aberdeen where I'm at right now, before Halloween people started putting stuff up.
It definitely feels like it gets earlier every year. And I think you made a really good point. I think this year specifically, because last year, you know, Christmas was cancelled, it just feels like everyone's like, right, okay, we're making up for lost time, and we've started earlier than ever before. Cassidy, what about you? Like, what do you think is the marker of when you know, okay, the countdown to Christmas is on in the UK?
I mean, me and my family always like to play the game of driving around where we live and just kind of seeing if there's Christmas lights in the houses yet. I feel like that's a pretty kind of common thing with a lot of families, especially with younger children. We just drive around, and as soon as we see the first Christmas lights in the windows, we're like, okay, Christmas has started then. And like, not necessarily officially for us, but we're like, we know it's coming. And then you see more and more slowly. And it's always fun because that always makes me feel really festive. And it was always one of the things I loved doing when I was little, like driving around and looking at the bright lights in the windows and on the high street. So that's always, I feel like, my first sign that Christmas is here somewhere or coming soon.
Completely agree. I also have always done that, drive around and look for the first. And also I love it when the houses that go completely mad. I feel like that used to be more of an American thing, and I feel like it's gradually moving over here more and more, just the kind of battle of the Christmas lights and Christmas decorations. Marta, would you back in your home country, would you have decorated the outside of houses?
So basically I think that depends entirely on where you live, because the way that stuff is built in Spain has nothing to do with how stuff is built in Britain. So even though you do see it, it's not like such a big thing as it would be here just because of the format that houses are built. However, you do decorate your like terrace or your balcony, because basically a lot of people do have those, because in the summer we like to go outside, maybe like a cup of like whatever in the summer, and like in the winter people like decorate their balconies. I know my aunt does put a Christmas tree on her balcony and like some lights as well. But it's not like a battle of like who has like the biggest like Christmas light or anything.
I love that. I just love seeing the lights everywhere. It's so cozy, and that's also a really key ritual, I think, specifically here in the UK, is the tradition of going to watch the Christmas lights get switched on. Cassidy, like, do you have sort of memories of that from when you were younger?
Yeah, I think it's kind of it's a bigger event than I think I mean, someone's essentially hitting a light switch, but I think it becomes a bigger it's not that exciting in theory, but yeah, like literally a second and you press it. But I think because often they invite a celebrity or like a local celebrity or like a soap TV star or something. Um, and then I think it becomes sort of a bigger thing. And we do tend to go, but then it's always that moment where you're like, oh, it's so exciting. And then they've done it and you're like, okay, that was it. That was it. Very quick. Yeah. It's a very strange thing, but it's definitely part of the build up and almost like part of the routine. And I kind of think every year is a bit of a checklist. So it's like Christmas lights on houses and the Christmas lights switch on in your town. Then there's like getting your Christmas tree is always like a significant point, and then buying the advent calendars and all these things that kind of build up to like Christmas. And without, I feel like even if one part's missing, I'm like, it's just, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like Christmas anymore. It's like we've done it wrong.
It's like going through the checklist, isn't it? It's like advent calendar,
Mm.
Christmas lights, first mulled wine of the season. You have to
Yeah.
go through all of the things before it's really Christmas, otherwise
Yeah.
it's not right. And we sort of mentioned briefly some of the things that really make it feel like Christmas. Mulled wine, I do feel like everyone is just mad about mulled wine in this country, or mulled cider, really any kind of hot beverage.
Any kind of alcohol that we can make festive. It's like,
Any
yeah.
hot alcohol, any excuse really. And Marta, is mulled wine something you would have had before coming here? No.
I had no idea what it was until I was here. I was working in a restaurant it was not my first Christmas, but it was like one of the Christmases that I was here, and it's when I was made aware of mulled wine. And basically they just had this big vat of mulled wine that was like really warm, and I was like, what is this? Why are you drinking hot wine?
It is weird when you get, it's kind of like a hot sangria.
Yes.
It's quite strange.
Like, no, it was very weird because like, we don't have mulled wine in Spain. For me, a big thing is Ferrero Rocher, because in Spain you can only really buy them during the Christmas season. Like, before Christmas it's not as big, and then after Christmas, even though it's still winter, it's hard to find them. It's like only during like a month and a half that you really have like a Ferrero Rocher season. And then we also have something that's called polvorones, which is another sweet. You only get them during Christmas, and it's like a biscuit, but it's a very, very crumbly biscuit. And they're called polvorones because they turn into dust in your mouth. So basically, polvo in Spanish means dust. So it's like dusters. And basically, you eat them and they just like turn into dust in your mouth. And you are just like munching on this crumbly dust, which sounds quite disgusting, but it's actually really nice.
I was like, I'm not 100% sold, but I'll believe you. I also feel like another real signifier of when you're like, okay, Christmas is here, Christmas is coming, for me is two things. It's the Christmas music and Christmas films. I can't decorate my tree without having one or the other on in the background. So I would love to ask both of you, I'd like to know both of your favourite Christmas song and your favourite Christmas film.
I think I'm the same, Sophie, with Christmas songs and Christmas films. For me, at least, as soon as it hits 1st of December, I want to watch all of them and listen to all the songs on that day, because I'm like, oh my gosh, finally I can celebrate. But I don't. I do restrain myself. I spread it out over the month. I have to say my favourite Christmas film, I have to, because, you know, my one from like, yeah, the one from my childhood is always been, or my favourite has always been Polar Express, because that was one I remember seeing. Like, I feel like actually both of them I saw on TV randomly, but I enjoyed them both so much. So definitely the Polar Express, and then The Holiday, because I'm a big like rom-com person, and of course that, you know, I don't know if I love that because it's a Christmas film or because it's a really cool rom-com that's set at Christmas. So if it counts, who knows? But definitely those two are my favourite films, because they're two I always make sure I watch at least once in December, but probably more than once if we're being honest. And then Christmas songs. The first one I thought of was Last Christmas by Wham, which is a great one. But then also the one I just thought, and it's funny that me and you, Marta, are having this conversation, is Feliz Navidad by Michael Bublé. And that's always comes on my Spotify. And I'm like, every time it makes me bop. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's the underdog of my Christmas season. And I always forget. And I'm like, wow, what a great song.
How very international of you.
I know.
Very fitting for this podcast.
And now that you said Cassidy, I remember that Polar Express is actually a movie and that exists, and I did watch it a lot when I was a kid.
Yes, it's a good one. It's a great one.
I have a controversial, unpopular opinion. I hate it.
Oh, what?
I didn't
Why?
feel right just sitting on that. I had to be honest with you, babe.
Oh, no.
I think it's so rubbish.
Do you? Well, what's your favourite then?
Well,
Let's
you
compare.
tell us. No, so Polar Express, the thing is, what I do remember about it, and I love Tom Hanks, and the animation of it, I remember at the time being like, it hadn't been done before. That's what I remember. So I think it's a beautiful, beautiful film. But I just thought it was bizarre.
It is quite bizarre.
And I watched it and we were like, are we missing something? Like, we just don't get it. And I know it's an unpopular opinion, that's why I'm just confessing it now. I know everyone loves it, but I couldn't get on board, pun intended. Just couldn't get on board with it. My favourite Christmas film, I mean, I've put the question to you both and now I've got to answer it, I suppose. I'm an old school, I love It's a Wonderful Life, which again doesn't have to be a Christmas film.
I've never seen that one. It's the big
so
rumours, yeah.
It is an absolute classic. I mean, it's just heartwarming. That probably is, if not my favourite, one of my favourites, and one that I do watch every year. And song-wise, easy, Fairy Tale of New York. That's my favourite Christmas song. It's the Irish.
I forget about them all.
Yeah.
There's so many though. Like, you know, when you hear them on the radio and you're like, oh wait,
yeah,
a great song. But I also maybe don't know the names of them because they're such,
they're
ingrained to Christmas. Yeah, I know I'm going to hear them again at some point, so I don't need to know their names. They'll just come around when I need them the most.
Exactly. Maybe I'll give Polar Express another chance. Maybe I've been too harsh.
Yeah.
So I feel like although we are all big kids about Christmas in the UK, Christmas when you're a kid here is obviously so exciting, and it also starts a lot earlier because there's all the countdown to Christmas activities at school. At primary school, notably, there's the Nativity. Marta, did you do the Nativity back in Spain? Is that something you would have done at school, at primary school?
What is that?
Are you enjoying our festive tales? Want to learn more about the weird and wacky customs of a Great British Christmas? Go and listen to the full podcast wherever you get your podcast fix.
GB Mag